question 23 is back with our verb forms. Featuring jagged peaks of black ink surrounded by hazy swirls of blue and green paint, we have a participial phrase that acts as a modifier. What that means is that this is an adjective functioning word called present participle. The featuring jagged peaks of black ink surrounded by hazy swirls of blue and green paint is describing painting by the name of Panorama of Mount Lu. So this is what's being described by this. Now, our verb is inspired by the tradition of qinglü shanshui, is continuation of our independent clause. But if you think about what our subject and object would be, just by looking at this sentence, Zhang Daqian's 1983 painting Panorama of Mount Lu is inspired by the tradition of qinglü shanshui. Okay, this is our independent clause, right? Now, can I ask you, would you know what the subject and the object of this sentence would be? Normally, when you read from Zhang Daqian's 1983, you could think that the subject is actually Panorama of Mount Lu. But in this particular sentence, every subject must be determined by looking at who's doing the verb. As you're looking at is inspired by the tradition. So one who's actually doing the inspiring is qinglü shanshui. This tradition of qinglü shanshui inspired the painting Panorama of Mount Lu. So let's just write down, we have adjective phrase, which is our modifier, and we have an object, we have a verb, which is inspired, we have a subject here. Okay, let me just organize it there. So this part here right now, okay, this is our featuring, and this is our independent clause right now, object, verb, subject. Just in case you're wondering what this object, verb, subject is about, this is called a passive voice construction. There are ways to write a sentence with subject, verb, object, or object, verb, subject. In case you write with object, verb, subject, it's named passive voice construction. The reason we have these passive voice construction is that if you want to place the object in the front, which means to emphasize the object, you can write it in this passive form. Continuing with our this part, a type of Chinese landscape painting blanked by the use of blue and green hues to depict ethereal, otherworldly landscapes. This is what we call a modifier. I'll tell you why this is a modifier, because think about what this is doing. What is a type of Chinese landscape painting? This is directly modifying our qinglü shanshui. Do you see that? A type of Chinese landscape painting is referring to qinglü shanshui. So this part is just a modifier describing qinglü shanshui. So this one, beginning with a type of Chinese landscape painting, this is considered noun phrase, which modifies our subject here. Now let's look at the four choices here, A, B, C, D. A type of Chinese landscape painting. Now, if you want to go with, if in case you're wondering by choosing D here, let's try choosing D. A type of Chinese landscape painting is characterized by the use of blue and green hues to depict. If you do a type of Chinese landscape painting is characterized, this will set off another independent clause here by is characterized being the main verb. So this independent clause cannot act as a modifier. What that means is if you place a verb like this, verb like that, verb like this, choice A, B, and D, these are called finite verbs. And what is a finite verb? Finite verbs are the verbs that we know of that give main actions based on tense and persons, such as singulars and plurals. By using any of the finite verbs in this choice, you're going to be setting off choices A, B, D as independent clause an independent clause. And as you know, this is called a comma splice, a bad sentence, right? Bad sentence. So finally, by choosing characterized, which is named non-finite participle. Non-finite participle mean they don't carry tense. They don't do the actions. They're not like main verbs. These are just adjective functioning verbs. You know that characterized is called, the name of characterized is really participle. This is called past participle. This featuring here, remember this adjective phrase, this is a present participle here. So whenever you have present participle or past participle in a sentence, these act as what's called a non-finite, non-main verbs. They're just giving descriptions to nouns. In case that you want to use non-finite verbs as a main one, you must add what's called a helping verb, something like is, being, can be, something like that. So choice C, which is our correct answer to finish our modifier here. Okay, this is characterized as the only non-finite verb, non-finite participle that will complete our modifier at noun phrase here in our answer choice. Whereas if you choose A, B, and D, these will actually set off another new sentence that will not modify the qinglü shanshui, but just become an independent clause on its own.